No Other Life presents Upstaged. Deafening Silence. As I continue through this mini-series on birds, I couldn't help but include this one particular track, which was actually one of the very first pieces that I created. It was to appear on an early album that tried its best to develop, and then when I actually did create that album in its current state, A Friend in the Dark, it appears. I believe it's track number 2 on there. And long before I wrote an entire album for my mom, Blue Wing, this was a year prior, and she was in good health. Everything was going well. And so I had no need to be concerned about all the things that would plague us some 6 months later. And this piece is all about discovery out in the picnic table. It's one of those pieces that is kind of funny in the simplicity of why it was written and what the inspiration was. So the title of it is Jackson, and for whatever reason, I never have found out why. The name Jackson was applied at my parents' house to a hummingbird, or more likely, a string of identical-looking hummingbirds, who would come to their little red bird feeder outside the kitchen window. And generally, you can see Jackson show up when my dad has filled up this thing with the sugar water. He very meticulously fills it, and I think there's boiling involved on the stove and letting it cool so it doesn't crack the little plastic bird feeder or burn little Jackson's beak. And eventually he'll get out there and pour it, and we'll all just be sitting in the kitchen having a conversation, playing a game, or what have you. But the more exciting arrival of Jackson is when we are outdoors, not in, because it's not surprising that an animal would come by and happen to be near your window when you happen to be on the other side of the window. Chances are that animal, in this case, probably can't even see in the window, so it's a good chance that it's happenstance, but it really feels like this bird has come up to just play with us a little bit. But when we are outside at the picnic table, when it's a holiday gathering and we have 10, 12 people out there all gathered around, it is more surprising to see a tiny little hummingbird show up to get a drink of water at the bird bath or come and take some of this sugar water out of this little plastic bird feeder. The idea of this piece was, I'm pretty sure, with me the entire time. Sometimes I'll get an idea in my head and start to explore it musically and then say, oh, actually, that reminds me of this. All of a sudden, I am always thinking of the this as I work on it at that point. But I'm pretty sure that this was very early on named Jackson, and I think that the symbolism, that the symbols that are within it were there from the start. So I played it for my mom one time, or I think I put it onto a mix that I made her for Mother's Day. And I said, this is for you. This is about you. And she was kind of taken aback and said, I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you see here. And the truth of the matter is, part of what it is that the opening part that's in the bass line, it goes on, and it changes a little bit, but it always returns back to where it was. And when I told her about that, she either emailed me or told me on the phone or something that one of the elements was a very repetitive bass line. And it's true. It is this repetitive form, and that was no mistake. The reason for that is because my mom is very constant, very true. She is straight down the middle and doesn't waver much, even over the years. And that was part of what I was trying to get at. And as the piece goes on, it's not entirely clear that Jackson has a theme. There is a melody, there is a bass line. There's nothing there that is like the buzzing of hummingbird wings or any of that. It's more this imagery and the feeling that is brought rather than actual painting of a realistic nature. So in the first part, before it has a key change, we're just feeling the picnic and things are going along. People are passing this and that around the table, some stories and what have you. And then all of a sudden, the intention of this piece changes dramatically. We have a key change. We feel the sparkle in the air as this birdie shows up, and everybody turns. Whatever conversation was happening, whatever food was hanging out of anyone's mouth, whatever was being passed around the table, all of a sudden doesn't matter because something almost otherworldly has occurred. You don't usually get to see this type of bird here in my area of New England. Nobody's ever stopped short when the crow arrives. Nobody's ever gasped when they see a sparrow, mourning dove. These are very common birds around here. Cardinal, everybody seems to have some symbolism of why a cardinal is there. A blue jay is equally fun to find. But a hummingbird, first of all, is so small that you really need to be in the right place, looking in the right direction even, to begin to notice that it's there. And it's rare. There's not a lot of them. I don't know if that's true, actually. There aren't a lot in front of us, but they do seem to show up from time to time, so I don't really know where they're hiding in the meantime. But throughout that middle portion of the piece, you can really feel that things are different. Things feel different. You almost wonder if we're going into a new place, a new style of the world. People are going to start getting along with each other. The world will finally find the peace that we've always dreamed of. Or the bird flies away, we return to the original key, and it kind of ends. And for me, that's really one of the ways of the world. You know, sometimes this moment of beauty will come, and then it's swiftly gone. I don't know if you've ever thought about that too much, and I don't know how much time you put thinking into these unexpected moments, these deafening silences that show up in our lives, but they're there. And unfortunately, when you're living with a disease that reminds you constantly of who you used to be, there's a strong chance that at some point you're going to be living a life in the realization of what it is today. And maybe moments later, you'll realize that something that used to be a part of you is no longer there. And this is something that is often on my mind. It figured prominently in seasons 1 and 2 of the No Other Life podcast. I've talked about it here on Upstaged. I've certainly blogged and posted about it. This understanding that we need to be aware of the moment. We need to be aware of that hummingbird, because if you are not, 20 years from now, you won't remember how important that moment was to you. And I mentioned that there's no way for us to possibly realize what is going on in real time of significance to our future. There's no elixir, there's no special button that makes you say, only show me the things that are going to matter 10 years from now. It doesn't work that way. So in order to not drive ourselves mad, wondering, is this the one? Is this the thing? Should I open this door? Should I go that place? Because one of these might be introducing myself to my future riches, my future love of my life, my future ambition, passion. Who knows? Well, you can't do that. So all that you can do is live in the moment, is hope that by living each moment like it were your last, as corny as that sounds, will you then realize in retrospect that this or that made all the difference. And you'll remember it with clarity and say, yeah, I could almost see that coming down the street. I paid attention. That was the track Jackson from my album A Friend in the Dark. If you really enjoyed that track, I have some advice for you. You can rewind this and then hold it up to your tape recorder, hit record. You'll get some background noise of your parents yelling at you and your dog barking and all of your friends coming over, like it was the 1980s. But there is a better way. Head over to rickseahome.com for the latest news, archived social media, or to be linked through to be able to purchase any of the music you hear on this podcast. Upstaged and the No Other Life project are independently conceived and managed by me, Rick Seahome, ad-free and without interruption for all listeners. I really appreciate your support. Please subscribe, leave a review, and spread the word with real-life people. That way, they will know what's going on here. Friends, you have no other life, and it's the grandest improv session of them all. Own what you bring to the scene, and share it with all whom you meet.